SpongeBob SquarePants The Cosmic Shake is coming to the Nintendo Switch in the next day or so and follows the successful SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. It's developed by the same team at Purple Lamp Studios and published by THQ Nordic. So let's dive into the Switch version. Does it prove a cosmic addition to the Nintendo Switch lineup or more of a shipwreck? Well, let's find out. Things start out relatively normal for SpongeBob and Patrick, who soon find themselves in the possession of a magical trinket. After fiddling about with this, unfortunately they cause a cosmic rift, which tears apart their beloved Bikini Bottom, sending its inhabitants as well as buildings to different dimensions. But all's not lost, because Madame Cassandra has offered to help you rectify the situation, and all you need to do is go to each dimension and collect up all the jelly for her. What follows is a collectathon gallivant across several different themed dimensions, where you'll don a different costume for each. Gameplay-wise, the Cosmic Shake follows quite a traditional formula, with a hub area, that being Bikini Bottom, that gradually expands as you complete the stages. It'll also unlock new ways of traversing, different mounts that you can ride, and a ton of different side quests for the various inhabitants. The worlds themselves then vary from semi-3D sandboxes, such as the Pirate stage, which allows much more freedom, to ones which are more on rails, particularly those featuring some form of mounted segment, be it riding a seahorse or an unusual unicycle, but even those are usually interspersed with some less linear segments. Every level is crammed full of secret items and hidden treasures, and you'll always know exactly where to go next with the on-screen prompts. Controlling SpongeBob is quite straightforward, with his jump and double jump abilities, and then grabbing his pizza box after the highest of his jumps. This allows him to glide slowly towards terra firma, or not. Now on the control front, this move is controlled automatically. So once you perform the double jump, as long as you're holding the button down, he'll automatically start to glide. One issue that I've found is that that's the case 9 times out of 10, but then randomly it wouldn't work, and I'd fall to my death, which could be quite frustrating, and it also knocks your trust in that control scheme. He can also perform a cartwheel dodge, a grapple to swing from hook to hook, and of course a karate kick, which comes in more useful than just doing damage, as it enables you to traverse large distances without having to worry about falling down. Which takes us into the combat. These sections can find you locked in, requiring you to kill all the enemies before you can progress. Combat is a one-button attack, often requiring you to mix up your strategies though, as each will require its own method to dispatch, be it firing back their projectiles, waiting for the opening when they're tired, or pounding the ground to make them vulnerable to your attacks. There's a reasonable enemy variety, but by the end of the game you will see the same ones over and over again, but the combat is quite fluid and enjoyable, just don't expect anything too deep. There are unfortunately a couple of bugs in the combat as well though, such as enemies being stuck behind items and unable to attack you, and you'll find yourself for a few moments at least locked into those sections searching around to see where they're hidden away. As we'll get onto in the next section as well, precision platforming should be powered by pristine performance, and it's definitely not the case here. It's important to mention that some of the frame drops do affect the controls at times and certainly impact the gameplay. There is some good variety within the Cosmic Shake, with a host of minigames included based on the most popular aspects of the cartoon, such as flipping Krabby Patties, and they're mostly enjoyable and usually optional. Within the main hub area, there are lots of different side quest activities that you can take, and by completing these as well as collecting hidden gold coins, or lucky pennies as they're called, you can actually unlock further costumes. Most stages will finish with some form of boss fight. They generally follow the 3 strikes to win rule, and they're quite well designed, and culminate in the rescue or redemption of the character you've been sent to find. The platforming within these stages is quite good. You'll have lives, pairs of pants, which can be restored by collecting them in a bubble, but there's not a huge punishment for death. If you fall down, then Patrick will usually rescue you, as he is now part balloon after all, and if you lose all your pants, well, you're never far from a checkpoint. In this regard, it's quite forgiving. Now with that said, there are some more tricky puzzle platforming sections, where you'll have to make full use of all your different moves to make sure you get through. Some standout areas include the skyscrapers that you gradually climb atop, jumping from crane to crane. Its verticality gave the game a real sense of scale, and also my personal favourite stage, the pirate level. It probably had the most character as well as the most free-form movement. I love the small ghost surfboards you can ride around on, and it's always nice to have some choice as to where to go next. Now, not all are created equally though. In the latter 2 or 3 stages, there's almost a sense that things were beginning to be a little rushed, a little less creativity, and they're by no means bad, just a tad safe. Having finished the game, there is a lot of content to go back to after the credits, loads of different side missions, and each area, as mentioned, having those hidden items means that there's quite a decent amount of replayability. It's also nice that you can teleport to any stage you've previously visited, but not only that, you can jump to specific segments within a level. A nice little touch. I appreciated how well the story was told in terms of the voice acting and its delivery. There's a seamless transition between gameplay and story segments, which make it feel like it's straight out of the cartoon. With that said though, the climax is a little anticlimactic, but is in keeping with the overall tongue-in-cheek nature of the series. Story and gameplay combined for me get 15 out of 20. The controls also score 15 out of 20. I alluded to some slight issues with the visuals and performance, and ironically enough, just after recording that, I saw a patch drop on the Switch version and had to go and download it and then spend another hour capturing footage. With that said, the issues that I mentioned do still remain, albeit not quite to the same degree. Frame rates, for example, in the open area, as the town gradually gets built back up, they'll drop right down. They'll hover around 25 frames per second, but they can go slightly lower depending on exactly where you are. Thankfully, most of the worlds have been improved. One in particular was running at 20 frames per second, but now seems mostly 30 frames per second with a few drops. The real issue here though is the Nintendo Switch's slow CPU and memory. Now, SpongeBob seems to be using some form of memory streaming so that the game's loading rather than having specified checkpoint loading screens. However, on the Switch version at least, you can have 3, 4 and even 5-second pauses in gameplay while it loads the next area. They are few and far between, obviously, as you transition from one to the next, but they're quite jarring, especially when they're happening during a fast-paced segment, such as riding your seahorse to the next place. I am glad to see that the patch has improved things, and certainly if you're playing in handheld, the overall experience I found to be much more stable. That's where I played the majority of it. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. From a visual standpoint, there are actually some really nice effects here. I was very impressed with the character shadowing. This might sound like a minor thing, but shadows cast from the character's own body parts, such as a hand in front of their face, back onto themselves, are something you don't usually see, especially on the Switch version. Then the designs themselves all look nice and crisp, and the animations really are on point. Fidelity takes a hit when you move into docked or handheld modes, as opposed to those cutscenes, which is understandable, and the animations here are reasonably good, although a couple seemed a little fast for my liking, like your grapple ability, where you seem to swing at an unnatural rate, and with that latest patch it does look like they've reduced the overall image quality even further than it was before, with possible dynamic resolution scaling and a slightly washed out look in some areas. Now, the audio is both excellent and annoying. It's great to have all the characters voiced. It means that cutscenes or side quests feel much more important, but a few of SpongeBob's one-liners can get quite irritating. When he glides with his pizza box, he says an iconic line, and at random other times, he'll say this, which you'll hear over and over again ad nauseum. Yes, you can turn off speech in the options, so there is that. And also in the options, which is very nice to see, is a text size option, meaning that if you're playing in handheld, you can boost that right up to your liking. I didn't find any camera sensitivity toggles, which was a bit of a shame, but I'm glad that they're already working on patches, and this is version 1.03. Now, overall, I would give the visuals and performance combined 12 out of 20. Stylistically, it's decent, but performance still needs some work. Acoustically, bar those minor irritations, I think they've got the sound almost spot on, with some brilliant audio tracks. Sound of Music score 16 out of 20. Cosmic Shake, unlike Nintendo first-party games, is only £34.99 at launch. For what you're getting, I think that's decent value. The 7 different worlds are all unique enough. Sure, there is some repetition to extend longevity, but it is nice that post-credits you can still go back and find all those secrets and do all that extra content. If you're a fan of SpongeBob, you will absolutely love the dialogue between the two main protagonists, and for younger players it's an easy to understand story with a forgiving setup in terms of gameplay, while not being too easy as a game, which is a difficult combination. Overall, I give value 16 out of 20. SpongeBob SquarePants The Cosmic Shake will certainly appeal to fans of the last game. It carries on the same formula in a slightly more bombastic fashion, and while it stumbles at times with its pacing, it's still enjoyable enough for its 8 to 10 hour runtime. It gets a SwitchUp score of 74%. Let me know in the comments, is this one you've been looking forward to, and will you be picking it up? Thanks to all of you that enjoy the channel, and as always, for all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers guys, see ya!
Squidward!